Hey everybody, it's Irene with BrainStormAcres, and today we're going to take care of our monster dill plant. Last fall I started this dill plant because, well, this pot with dill, which has got a couple of plants in it, because Henry really likes dill, and sometimes we have trouble getting it here. Certainly fresh dill is like mostly not available. So we decided the easiest thing to do was to grow it. Now I usually have it in my garden, and this summer I used a ton of it because I used the dill seeds for making dill pickles and regular pickles, and the dill weed, the leafy part, for making all kinds of lovely dill salads that Henry likes so much. So I had, earlier this fall, it started to get a little out of hand. And I trimmed it back, and I dried it. I have a dehydrator, and I dried the dill and wound up with about the same amount as you would get in one of those little jars that, you know, it's organic, so this would have run me about $4.57. I've been meaning to get to this again. It's got a few spots on it that have gotten a little shaggy, past their best of use by date, and it's trying to go to seed. And I was kind of curious about whether it might manage to go to seed, and I really still don't know the answer to that. It's iffy even in the garden as to whether I get good seeds off the dill, so I thought what I would do today is just really cut the heck out of this thing. It's gotten to be a problem. It's busy smushing some of my other herbs that are just a little too tender to go outside yet. So you can watch me. Come along and do this. I've got my trays for the dehydrator here, and I'm just literally going to trim these things off and get them in here. Now you'll notice I'm just trimming the flower heads off. I had thought about leaving them and seeing if they would do anything, but this plant is getting to be too much of a problem. So we're just gonna get rid of those. I might leave some on the other plant, we'll see. Another thing that you can do with dill if you have too much is it freezes very well. And I have done that before, where I made itty bitty packages with my food sealer of fresh dill and just froze them. Obviously they're going to mush when they defrost, but you're usually using them in something anyway, so it's not a problem. And that has worked really well for us. We're working more and more towards trying not to freeze things that we don't need to. So, you know, I'm seeing the big fantasy on YouTube homesteaders these days is everybody buys themselves a freeze dryer. Well, or gets one for free for advertising the freeze dryer. Okay, first of all, we're not big enough to get anything for free, and second of all, it takes electricity to do that, and right now our electricity is working really well for us, and we're not having to run the generator at all, and that's awesome. But when you tell me you're going to have to run something for 48 hours or 24 hours or one of those things like that. That's a lot of power, and you know, it's not that much added to your bill most places if you're in town, but that's enough to, we might very well wind up having to run a generator. I have an excellent collection of seeds right now. I actually bought a commercial collection last year because I was having trouble getting seeds at the grocery store because, like everything else, the herbs and spices were pretty slim. This year we're adding to our collection of things that we're going to be growing in the garden. We've become fans of Thai basil, and they do not sell it at any of our semi-local grocery stores. I would probably have to go to a Whole Foods or a Sprouts or something, and that's a much longer drive. So we managed to find one little lonely plant. It was the only one left at a big box store, and bought it, and I've absolutely loved it for cooking. So now that we've developed a taste for it, because what I really wanted to do is buy some little cut herbs and taste it to see if we liked it, because I wasn't sure I'd ever had it, to be honest. A lot of the food that we used to eat in California, you didn't know what was in it. You didn't worry about what kind of an herb or spice or whatever was in it, and you liked it or you didn't, and whatever. So when you go to make it yourself, sometimes you're not sure what stuff was. So, and in long story short, we fell in love with this poor little plant, and that means we can only have things that have Thai basil in it when the plant's grown enough. So at first we were like, okay, is it grown enough now? Can we have something else? But we obviously decided that was not appropriate policy in terms of growing it. So I've ordered a bunch of seeds, and I'm looking forward to those coming in. This plant is now doubled in size too, which helps immensely, but I'm still holding off planting this anywhere dangerous, quote unquote, as in might freeze, until, you know, for a while, because we were supposed to hit 32 or 34 last night, which usually means we'll get down lower, but we actually didn't. I suspect it might have been a little overcast, so we didn't get as cold as they expected us to last night, which was awesome. It means there was no issues at all with anything, because we do have peas and onions and stuff like that in the garden, which I'm not concerned about. They could sustain fairly significant frost without any damage. But it was just nice to know when I woke up this morning and it was as warm as it was, I was like, oh, okay, cool. So that's a good thing. I don't want it to get hot. I'm not ready for hot yet, but although we've already had some hot days. We're supposed to head into yet another little sort of a cold snap thing with little warm snaps in between. And I'm like, okay, when it's a little cooler, we can get a lot more done without needing as many sports drinks. It's a lot less wear and tear on you, honestly, when it's cooler. So anyway, I am going to continue this process. I think we're full again. Okay. It's funny, I work so hard trying to make sure that I don't accidentally wilt the stuff, and now I'm busy chopping it up into little pieces that wilt easily. Different purpose, different purpose. Okay. I'm trying to choose only the best quality. That's one of the joys of growing your own stuff at home, is you get to choose the best quality. You don't have to put up with what they hand you at the store. And that means we do get a little picky sometimes. It's not a survival circumstance, so it's not like if I am one dill leaf short, I won't have enough dill and the world will end, and yeah. No, I'm going for basically what I would call gourmet quality dill. It's lovely to know that it's organic. There's no overspray from somebody else's field. Nothing. Nothing. I often clean off dead or dying leaves on plants, just as if they were house plants, even if they're not, because it makes them look nicer. And I figure if the plant is losing those leaves anyway, It's not a big asset. Yeah, I don't really expect this plant to do much more than it has already done. It has provided a huge quantity of dill already. Let's see if I got a stick handy. I can keep it from smushing my other plants. And I'm curious to see if it will actually produce seeds. I kind of don't expect it to, but hey, if it does, another bit. Because as we know, every little thing that we do is awesome in terms of producing our own stuff, and every bit counts. So this is part of our Every Bit Counts challenge. Get a haircut. And I'm going to go ahead and open these blinds again, these drapes again, so everybody can have their sun. I had to close the drapes because you couldn't see anything but silhouette. And yeah, I wanted to share. Should make a pretty nice collection of dried dill. And this will be dried dill weed, not dried dill seed. The seed, what I always do is just wait for them to dry on the plant, and then I kind of collect them, let them dry a little bit more, and then once I'm sure that they're pretty dry, I'll kind of let them go into a jar. We save our old spice jars, and yeah. So there we go. That's a much needed that haircut for a long time. I hope this inspires you. We're hoping this year to be able to produce a lot more of our dried herbs, and obviously fresh ones too. I have, buried under the scraps here, I have a, this is lemon balm, I think. Yeah, this is lemon balm. And then this is the Thai basil. I have peppermint in the garden. I bought some tarragon seeds. I think that other thing we have is oregano. We definitely have thyme and sage. So we're trying to increase the quantity of things we can grow ourselves. Oh, our big experiment this year is we're growing two, hopefully, if they both survive, roselle hibiscus plants, which in our area would be grown as an annual. And that's where they get the stuff that they use to make hibiscus tea from. So we're looking forward to that. We want to experiment with that. I like hibiscus tea, but I'm a little picky about it. So we'll see if this meets my standards. And yeah, it would be cool to be able to say, and this is mine. So be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, because we're obviously going to be doing a ton more this year. I have a bunch more seeds to plant this weekend, and I've got a bunch of tomatoes that are up now. Still waiting for the peppers to come up, but they usually take a little longer. I need to plant some more peppers. We're not growing very many peppers this year. And I've got some odd bits and pieces that need to go in this weekend in terms of seeds. And we're hoping to finish a couple of the beds that we've been working on fairly quickly, so that I'll be able to start out with some of the pretty cold tolerant flowers. My goal this year is to direct plant as many of the flowers that I've grown in the greenhouse without having to pot them up a bunch of times. I have a bunch of Dixie cups that I've turned into, actually they're Solo cups. Sorry Solo. the plastic Solo cups that we turned into pots that I've used in the past, because when you're potting up, 100, I can't afford the pots that it would cost to pot all those things up. So I got those set in case I need them, but I'm hoping that at least some of these things I'll be able to plant directly into the garden. There's some of the things I'm growing are perennials that are very slow growing, like Rudbeckia, which is black-eyed Susan. They've been up for quite a while, but they're still itty-bitty. They've got true leaves, but they're still itty-bitty. And I'm trying to see how long they can stay in those original seed cells, because I think I've got some ridiculous quantity of them. I don't know, 60 somewhere or something like that. Because we're trying to create a basic structure for a bunch of our flower gardens by creating a backdrop, basically, of perennials that you just kind of add sort of things to it every year. So you got to come back because, you know, we have so much going on this year. Flowers, vegetables, cooking. I'll probably do some crafty stuff. I need to make some new clothes for our medieval hobby. I'm really sick of my old clothes. It's funny. I don't get sick of jeans and t-shirts, but I get sick of the nicer stuff. Very bad. Anyway, so until next time, don't hesitate to dry your own herbs. In the past, we have done a bunch simply by bundling them and hanging them to dry. I just happen to own a food dryer, a dehydrator, and I'm going to go set this down in the studio and let her go. So, bye.